2009. And around he was born around March 2009. Around September 2009, I became severely depressed. I became severely depressed, and some of the doctors kept saying, "Oh, it's postnatal stress, postnatal stress." I was like, this does not feel like postnatal stress. It feels more like I don't want to be here. I don't want to even attempt anything. I really don't want to make head or tail of what life is. I don't actually want to be here. My beautiful son was in front of me, but I didn't care. And that is when it went to a point whereby I almost committed suicide. I almost gave up. What's the point? And I remember in winter 2010, I walked with house slippers. Like I walked a long distance in house slippers for close to 3 hours, just walking in winter in the UK with just a flimsy summer jacket on and slippers with nothing on. And then that is when I said to myself, I needed to fix this. I needed to ask for help, sort this out. And so I went to the GP the following day. I explained to the GP, and she was at that time, it was a German doctor. She looked at me, she said, "Have you ever seen someone about your counseling after the loss of your son?" And I'm like, yeah, I did see someone at uni, but then because I dropped out of uni, I couldn't cope in uni, I had to drop out. I kind of didn't want to. She's like, "You know what, Clarice, I'm gonna refer you because you're showing signs of complex PTSD. And I'm like, what is that? It's like post-traumatic stress disorder. And yours is very complex because you've had a lot of childhood traumas, or you've had a lot of things in the past in your childhood that you've not dealt with. And then you've experienced a very, very sad situation or very traumatic situation, but you've not explored it." So she asked me a lot of questions. She did some tests. We filled in some worksheets. We talked for a long time. I think my appointment ended up being close to about 2 to 3 hours with her, because when I told her I had attempted suicide, she was like, that is not it. So she now started to talk to me about my past and talk to me about everything that I'd gone through when I came to the UK. And she said to me, "Clarice, you are going to have to be fast-tracked to the top of the list to see a clinical psychologist." I'm like, "Why is that?" And she's like, "Your complex post-traumatic stress disorder has made you to start to have kind of certain split personalities, and it will be better to inform your family member that you're going to start cognitive therapy. I think it's cognitive behavioral therapy. You're going to start with that before we go on, because you're going to need a lot of help. There are a lot of things you're going to have to go through, and I will not take you off the list till I am comfortable." And I remember I came out of the GP surgery and I said to myself, because my son at that time was with his auntie, his paternal auntie, so I said, "I have time. I'm going to go and see my auntie that is here." My mummy had already gone back to Cameroon, so I was supposed to go and see my auntie. I went and saw my auntie and I said to her, "You know that this has happened, I've been ignoring it and I've tried to deal with it. And the most shocking thing happened to me, which I never thought that a family member would do, but hey, I think that's the way she could cope with it." She just laughed. She said, "Why are you taking family issues to strangers? Don't you know that in the African culture, everything has to be sorted within the family?" And that phrase right there made me realize that, Clarice, you are on your own. When I keep thinking about that phrase, I didn't blame her. I was angry at her. I was annoyed, let me use that, not angry. I was annoyed at her. So I think I just like, what are you talking about? I'm telling you about my health, and you're smirking, and you're telling me the African culture. What has the African culture got to do with how I'm feeling? I'm African. My culture, I know my culture. There are loads of things in my culture that I should not even be condoning, but because I've been condoning, I've been in this situation now. So I did tell her, you know what? I'm going to go for the therapy regardless. I'm going to fight for myself because now I know I am by myself. I still respect you as an elder. I still would treat you as an elder, but I don't think I will be able to be in the house with you. And I actually told her that because in the past I've always been able to vocalize how I feel to her. I think it became easier when I used to live with her. I used to not talk to her how I felt, but when I left the house and the family house, I actually could vocalize how I felt. So I'd always told her things in the past, and I'll always come and apologize if I'm in the wrong, or if I've made a mistake. If I've raised my voice, I'll apologize. But that day, I think I raised my voice, but I was very unapologetic about it, and I walked out. And I think when I walked out, I told myself that I will not come back to the family house till I get myself better. And the following day, I went back to the GP and I said, okay, I'm on my own. I've got a family member. I actually had to be honest with her. I've got a family member, but they will not support my treatment. But then, because I am already legally an adult at that time, so I will go through it myself. And she referred me there and then. And the following day, she called me up and said, you're starting therapy so date. And when I went in, my first session, and it was a French doctor, and she was like, I've read your file, I've read all your notes, and I am going to be putting you on a 2-year plan. And I was like, what does that mean? And she was like, a 2-year plan means, Clarice, you are going to be coming in here into the psych ward of King's College Hospital. So it's not King's College, Maudsley Hospital. So South Maudsley Hospital was the hospital it's a hospital in South London that is known to treat people with schizophrenia, people with all kinds of mental disorder. And when she said a two-year plan, I thought she was going to admit me. She said, I want to admit you, but your doctor has said you've got a kid. And because you've got a kid, we're going to do an outpatient 2-year plan. So meaning every 2 days or every 3 days, I will have to come in and see her. I will see her and we will talk about what it is that I have to do. And when we talk about what it is I have to do, I will go through something called cognitive behavioral therapy with her. And it involves a lot of going back to your childhood, like finding unhelpful habits